This is The Gauge with host Chance Conradu.
Are you freaking serious? It's Conrado. This is the pilot episode of The Gauge. Episode 1, I am Chance Conrado, and after a lot of thought and discussion with the team here at The Gauge, we decided to launch it with my sister, Ivy Saebens. Ivy Conrado, for those who don't know, she was married. She's a 4-time NFR qualifier, 2019 aggregate champion. She's a Ram National Circuit Finals champion and American finalist champion. She is champion, Fort Worth, you name it, champion. We've got other episodes that we'll be releasing that could have been the first one. We have decided Ivy's the first one. It is important to mention that this is Ivy's story about her life and her come up. And this is her perspective, and The Gauge is an open format for many different people, not just rodeo athletes, but if you have a Western background or are from really any walk of life with the commonality that there's a Western piece to it, that's what this show is all about. And this is Ivy's story, and we're going to get into it. So what's up, sis?
In Fort Worth with you.
You are, yeah. So you left Nowata, Oklahoma, and for those who don't know where Nowata, Oklahoma is, we'll just call it Tulsa. But you were just telling me about how freezing it was there, and it's like 90 degrees here today.
Yeah, it was pretty much 45 when I left this morning.
45 and drizzling rain.
It's supposed to rain for 8 days. 8 days straight.
8 days straight.
Yes.
And you're in the middle of building a new house and doing the newlywed thing.
I don't know. I feel like we've been married for a while now, but I guess we haven't if you actually look at it.
Well, I mean, okay, so if you've been dating somebody for a long time and then you get married, it's not like much changes, but your wedding was it October?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not that long. It's not even a year.
How do you not remember? You officiated it.
No, okay. You make a good point.
Your kids got, what did they get, hand, foot, and mouth, and Miranda had to leave.
Don't bring that into this.
But I'm just saying, it was a pretty memorable time.
It was very memorable, but like the day on the calendar.
It's October 4th.
Yeah, well, it's your anniversary, dude. Of course you're going to remember that. But the exact date.
I'm pretty impressed that I remember
I could look at a photo on my phone. Oh, it's time stamped October 4th.
You know what date I struggle with?
What's
and this
that?
is just me being 100% honest.
Yeah.
I can remember Paige's birthday super easy, but you and Dad, I have such a hard time keeping your guys' birthdays separate, and it's been like an ongoing thing for me.
Really?
Literally since I was like 11, where you actually like try to comprehend people's birthdays and you're supposed to like tell them happy birthday and like remember it and stuff.
Oh, I'm so bad about it. If it wasn't for Facebook, I would not know anyone's birthday.
Billy Jack one time asked me when his birthday was, and I said the wrong thing in front of his friends. It was very embarrassing.
Was this before or after the wedding?
It was before, thank God. No, I know it now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's important because he wouldn't have even spoke. He would have just left.
You know, he doesn't talk that much anyway, so it's really not hard for him to be at a loss of
That's
words.
the point I'm trying to make. Is it's like every harvest, there's like 3 words.
You should have him on here.
Well, we just sit here in silence?
I mean, it could be like bonding time. You know what
You think
I mean?
it'd be a good bonding?
Like, yeah, absolutely.
Because every time I see Billy, hey, Chance, how's it hanging? Good, Billy, how are you? Yep.
And that's the extent of the conversation.
Yep. So like, all right.
Well, that's it. We went and stayed at Jessie Telford's house, and I don't know, a couple summers ago. And her husband, Jake, too, like, he doesn't really talk that much. And Billy's like, I want to go ride with Jake. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Me and Jessie are going to hang out by, like, their pond pool thing, and we're going to drink cocktails.
Wait. What's a pond pool thing?
I'll just show you a picture of it, because Jessie, literally in her backyard, it's, like, beach sand. And then they, like, took a pond and they lined it with, I don't know, some kind of liner, whatever people use for ponds, but to keep the water clean. And it's, I don't know, it's pretty deep. It has to be, like, 8 foot. But it's like a little mini beach back behind their house. It's not an actual pool. It's a pond. And so, yeah, we were drinking cocktails while they were riding, clearly. And Billy came back and he was like, man, I really like Jake. And I was like, oh, that's good. And so when I went back and talked to Jessie, she was like, Jake said he really liked Billy. And I'm like, yeah, they probably sat out there in silence for like 2 hours and came back. They're like, yep, I like him. Because they probably, more than likely, didn't say more than 5 words to each other.
Yep. And that might be why Billy doesn't like a lot of people with the last name Conrado, because They never shut up.
You know what he said?
What'd he say?
He said, people in my family make like too aggressive of eye contact.
Too aggressive of eye contact?
Yeah, he said dad and mom like give him these weird eyes, and they like look at him like in depth, and he's like, okay.
Yep. No, I know exactly
They do that.
what you're
You know when
talking about.
dad does that burning stare when he says something and he wants people to think it's funny, so he looks at you until you laugh?
I never have laughed
Really?
at that myself. No,
Well,
I don't enjoy that.
We don't, because we're like, but he does that to other people, and Billy every time gets like, he's like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, no, he's a very interesting guy, and he's just super reserved. But hey, all you need is a rope good, and he can do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a conversationalist when you're a team roper.
No, but that's why I like him, because I get to talk a lot.
You get to listen to yourself a lot.
Yeah.
You get to practice your speeches on him.
I don't really practice those. I just kind of let it.
Just let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm a little biased, but Ivy is my favorite barrel racer. Can't imagine why.
I thought you were going to say favorite sister. I was like, ooh.
No, I wouldn't say that because we have Paige, but that will keep us entertained for the rest of our lives. Thank the Lord. But
We love you.
the interesting thing about you, and it's like a retelling of a story that I already know, but there was a long period of time where you were probably the least likely to do anything equestrian, you know, like, and when it came to us in our youth, you were the one who was as far removed from horses as you could be, to be honest, because you had so much other stuff going on. And when you look back at it from like my perspective and seeing that you're now a 4-time NFR qualifier, average champion 2019, all the other accolades you have in rodeo, in barrel racing in specific, it's very interesting that it even came about.
Yeah. So I've never really like dug into it on anything before, just because most people that I'm around have, you know, they like heavily high school rodeoed and they college rodeoed, and, you know, they all went to school down here in regions, and they've all known each other for a very, very long time. And then I just kind of popped up out of nowhere. But and to say I was removed from horses, like I definitely didn't ride a horse for, I mean, most of the time I was in high school. I think I quit running barrels when I was in 8th grade, and I never got back on a horse until I was 17. But I played, you know, I obsessively played club volleyball. Like, that's all I wanted to do. And so I did. And I won state on Tibby's mom. And then I also qualified for the Junior Olympics with my club volleyball team. And they happened to be at the same time. So I had to choose, and I chose volleyball, which was very hard for Dad. It was very hard for him. But I do not regret it one bit. Like, if I could redo it again, like, I would do exactly what I did, but I would have stayed for my 18th year at Front Range, because what I learned at that club is probably the only reason that I jumped into another discipline at a high level and accomplished anything, is because just of the mental game that was taught to us from an extremely young age, and the responsibility. And we had practice every day except for Wednesdays, and we had 2 days on Saturday. So there's no, and if you did go out on Friday, well, I mean, as we did in high school, we had a lot of fun, but like going to practice on Saturday and having a 2-a-day and feeling like that, like, was not something that I wanted to do all the time. And then if we had tournaments, there'd be state tournaments on Sundays, and then national tournaments were like once a month or once every other month. And then for the summers, I would just go to college camps all summer, and I just never quit playing volleyball. Like, I was obsessed with it, and to this day I love it. Like, anybody that plays volleyball, Andrea Busby is really good. Like, she played D1 at Montana State, so she's my favorite pepper partner. But like, if they're not good, like, me and Andrea won't let them play with us because we don't want to deal with that. But
yeah, you're a volleyball snob. You always have been.
I know.
Which is such a weird word, but it's a volleyball snob way more than you're a barrel racing snob, oddly enough.
Oh, barrel racing is like, but it's like a whole different spectrum of people. you know, most of the girls I played club volleyball with, like, lived in Highlands Ranch and Cherry Creek in Colorado, which is, like...
Very affluent.
It's upper class, yeah. And I went to Brighton. But, like, rodeo people, it's so much more spread out, like, where people come from financially and, like, their backgrounds, and clearly from all over the country. You know, you have people from Georgia, and then you have people from Washington and all that stuff going to the NFR, and it's just, like, completely different groups of people.
It's very diverse.
Yeah, super diverse.
Yeah, it's interesting because what a lot of people don't know about you is how wild you were when we were younger. Not in a bad way, but you were this, and you still are.
I'm sorry, but you were really wild too.
No, I know, but
and you were wild for a long period of time. I just had like a 2-year span of being like a horrible teenager.
But what's interesting about it, and people who hang out with you now in those type of environments will always probably agree with me that you keep it together so well. Like, as far as liquor goes, like, you hold your liquor so well. You have been able to drink every grown man under the table that I've ever been around. And the big disadvantage you had is that our other sister and I were older, but you hung in our group at a very young age. And what I learned about you is that no matter how well I thought I could, like, drink, for instance, okay, we can all admit there was alcohol in most everybody's youth, but you would take it. You would drink twice as much as me, outlast me, and just walk out of there on a straight line backwards, and you could say your ABCs backwards after polishing off a whole bottle. And I just have never understood where that came from.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people drink, clearly, and people at rodeo, I mean, especially when you're up north, I think it's more widely accepted to have fun. And I don't think that I necessarily hold my liquor that good, because, like, I feel like the older I got, like, the less I could handle. But I mean, I think it was just being around you and Paige and just trying to hang, you know what I mean? Like, because I didn't want to be left. And, you know, I don't know. Clearly, this isn't something I've ever talked about on a podcast or any interview. I don't really know what to say.
Well, that's the funny thing, is I have an insight into your life, and a lot of people wouldn't have that insight, nor would like you be able to go on the Cowboy Channel and talk about things like that. That's what's so great about podcasts.
Yeah.
Is it's an open forum to kind of say whatever you want. And like I said, I know everything from the highs, the lows, the really lows, to the greatest greats that have just started kind of happening in your life. And
I think there's a point of time in my life where pretty much everybody in our family wrote me off except for you and Paige, because they didn't think I was going to go anywhere. They thought that my life was in the gutter and that I was just going to be, like, staying in Miranda's house and eating her parents' food for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have anywhere else
at
to
the
stay.
time. I had really, Miranda is now my wife, but we had just barely started dating. And looking back into this at hindsight, we were young and we didn't realize, but as adults and understanding kind of what we're, like, going through now with this coronavirus and how it's absolutely devastating the economy, that was the 2007, 2008, 2009 recession time, which, if you're thinking back financially, we as children didn't understand why there was no money, why everything was falling apart in our lives. And, well, now, that was what it was.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's an emotional topic, but there was this time, and you kind of talked about the highs of volleyball and all that, not being in rodeo. And of course, I know this, but what was it that kind of had you in that situation? You just brought up being rode off, but you didn't say why or how or what that even was.
Yeah.
Will you?
Well, before I dig into
elaborate
that,
on
I
that?
really want to say, like, if there's anything that people can learn from me is that you can mess up, you can make horrible mistakes, and all you have to do is wake up one day and say that you never want to feel that way or do something like that ever again, and it's completely within your power to change your own life. And like I got around, like our school was not a good school. It was not if I probably would have went to a different high school, my whole entire life would be different. And I think parents need to think about that when they place their kids in school. But there was a lot of, drugs and stuff and different things that went on in our school, and I started hanging out with like not good kids because growing up I just hung out with Paige's friends, not necessarily yours, because you wouldn't even talk to me at high school, but whatever.
Did you
Yeah, I called you out. Yeah, walk by me in the hallway and not even look at me. And
this is a lie.
It's so true. It is so true, and it hurt me.
You're hurting me right now by putting that on my name.
Anyways, so I literally, because honestly, growing up, I was pretty awkward. Like, I was not good at making friends. I didn't know how to make friends. And I had, weird, issues with myself and, the way that I looked and stuff. And partially because I was Paige's little sister, but I was way bigger than her. And now that I'm an adult, I realize that high school skinny and adult skinny are not the same thing.
And you also realize that Paige is not a normal sized human being.
Well, yeah, she's 100 pounds. Yeah, I realize that now that I'm an adult. Anyways, so when Paige left, I had no friends. So I just kind of picked the easiest people to make friends with. Well, the easiest people to make friends with doesn't mean that they're good people. And I'm not blaming anything on anybody because I made my own choices, but I definitely spiraled. You know what I mean? It just snowballed into just making bad decisions. And, as much as I want to say our parents were there all the time and whatever, it was kind of pretty much free range.
It was 100% free reign, which kind of the thing with children, and I could definitely speak to myself and to you, is the longer the leash, the more you're going to hang yourself with it.
Yeah.
It turns out that's a true statement.
No, yeah, they're not joking.
No.
But I got to the point where I had ditched so much school that there was no way that my D1 volleyball deal was even going to happen. I had letters from Cornell and, from Colorado State and ASU and different things. And I was good at volleyball. I will say, I was good, but I wasn't I'm not like Lauren Carlini or Jordan Poulter. You know what I mean? They're on the Olympic team now. But I was good. And
you just named off 5 different D1 schools. There was a point in time where you were within 5 or 10 of the best for your position in the entire country?
Well, for my height is more like it.
Is that how they did the stats?
Well, I was just really small, and I was good enough to play D1, but who knows if I would have saw the court, you know what I mean? I don't know if I was that good because I never got to that point, but I had gotten to the point where I ditched my school that there was no getting back to it, and so I just quit going, and yeah, and so then I, didn't have anywhere to stay really because Mom had moved with Mark, and Dad was doing dad things. He was fraternitying or wherever. And so then I moved in with you.
Typical horse trainer thing.
Yeah. So then I moved in with you and Miranda for a little bit. And then he came back, Dad did. And I went over there and I started cleaning stalls and riding 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and taking outside horses and hauling Paige's college rodeo horse for her and different stuff like that. And then, I learned, I will say, even through all the bad stuff, I learned a lot because I had a lot of responsibility. I mean, we would have anywhere between 40 and 70 head of horses, and I would be there by myself doing chores. It was by the time I got done doing chores, it was time to start doing chores again. But I love horses, and I've always loved animals, big time. But I hadn't ridden or anything for about 4 years, and I do remember growing up and stuff, my dad always talked about my feel and all of this stuff, and I thought that I was just going to get back on and it was just going to be there, and it wasn't. It was an extreme learning curve, and I looked like a super duper goober for a really long time.
Say that 5 times.
Super duper goober. I look back at the videos and I'm like, that's so embarrassing, and I still do embarrassing stuff all the time, but it was just an interesting transition, I think, in life, because again, everybody thought that I was done. You know what I mean? There was no future for me. And
no future.
Yeah. And I did, when I originally quit going to school, like I did have like, I'm going to say a month period where I just did whatever I wanted. And I was 17. Like, that's not a good thing. And
I remember picking you up from the airport.
Yeah.
That time.
Yeah. And like, it was just like it was not a good thing at all. And I do remember going to a high school, bonfire, and somebody, it was actually a guy, but he was in sports, and we had weightlifting together, and he was like, holy crap, you haven't been at school, like, oh my gosh, like, did you drop out, whatever. He's like, you should not do that, you're so good at volleyball, like, what the heck, why would you do that? And I'm like, I'm better at barrel racing than I am at volleyball. And he was just like,
what's barrel racing?
No, well, they know what barrel racing is because, I mean, it's in Brighton, but like, he was just like, how do you know that?
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just said it. You know what I mean? So I do think that there's a plan for sure. And I also remember being in Arizona at Becky Mahoney's learning basic horsemanship because I sucked so bad. And I was there, and there was a huge group of people, and like the difference between like actual rodeo people, the like college rodeo and high school rodeo and do all that stuff and come up and they're like breakaway ropers and whatever, like it's kind of a different scene. So
it's
like
a total
me,
different scene.
Yeah, so like me, Betty barrel racer only, like I don't know how to rope. I mean, I've never roped except for when, I want to make Billy Jack laugh. But they're like, so what's your plan in life? And I was like, probably 18 or 19. I was 19 when I said it, and I was just like, I'm gonna go to the NFR and make a name for myself, and then I'll be set for life. I'll have a name for myself, and then I can make money doing this for the rest of my life. And they literally laughed in my face. Like, it was the most unfathomable thing to say. Like, I was so far out, like that was never gonna happen for me. And now I'm just like, which really, people say if you think it for yourself, you can make it tangible.
Oh, absolutely. I want to bounce back to just one thing because I want to shout Becky out real quick because I actually got to ride with Becky for a couple of days one time, and I don't even know if she's taking students anymore.
Yeah, she's doing clinics in Arizona.
But I want to shout her out because for my own personal horsemanship back then, I got more out of 2 days with Becky just on horsemanship, loping circles, working on hand placement and galloping your hands and doing just basic horseman stuff. I got more out of that with her, and I think you would say the same, and anybody who's ridden with her, than any other thing in my entire life.
Well, it's an amazing foundation to have. You know what I mean? So Becky's old school. Like, she's like, when I say basic horsemanship, it's like why people do barrel racing now and why people... that's why there's finesse in anything. It's just like sports, stuff, it develops throughout the years. I mean, and they talk about it in volleyball. Like, there's certain styles to playing volleyball. There's fast tempo, there's higher tempo, you know what I mean? Like, there's different rhythms, and Becky teaches the most raw, basic form of horsemanship, which honestly is the hardest to do. And I'm not going to say I was any good at anything Becky taught me because it was constantly like, you almost had it. But I never fully got like the, yes, you did it from Becky. And
right.
I still, ended up being capable to do, what I do thanks to really good horses, clearly. But Becky's... truly, I mean, she's a badass.
Yeah, shout out to Becky Mahoney.
Yes.
Probably one of the best teachers for horsemanship that there is.
Yeah, she's super good at explaining. She's good with kids. Holy crap. If you want to teach your kids horsemanship, you should send them to Becky because she can explain it to somebody like me. And if I can understand what she's saying, then she's spot on.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to pull you off the tracks there, but go ahead. Finish your thought.
I don't even know. What was I saying?
Well, you were talking about how you were talking to somebody at the bonfire and explaining this, and then you were explaining to people, and they laughed you out of the room.
Yeah.
Ha-ha.
Well, it's just so, I don't know, like looking back on my life, and I'm only 25, like for me to even say that is kind of ridiculous. But like looking back on my life, like I said things that I will never forget that I said, and I have no proof no proof that I actually said them, but I do remember telling Dad that when I started rodeoing on Tibia, he was like, oh, what are your goals? You know what I mean? And write them down and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I get the whole write it down thing, and I do that periodically, but Like, I just looked him square in the face and I was just like, I want to be $1 million cowgirl by the time I'm 25. And, like, that's such a broad goal. You know what I mean? Like, I never said I want to be a world champion. I never said I want to win the average. I never said, oh my gosh, I want to win Calgary. All I said was I want to be $1 million cowgirl by the time I'm 25. And, like, I did it. I don't even, and it's almost like, it's like a God thing. Like, I'm like, I want this in my life. And he's like, if you work really hard, you can have that. And that's just kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same thing that anybody in it doesn't matter if it's business, doesn't even matter what the sport is. You're just going to find that everybody's going to say, well, what's the secret? What's the secret? You have people selling you what they say the secret is. No, the secret's hard work.
Oh, guaranteed.
Period. Hard work and perseverance. There's no other secret.
Well, there is, but there's also a big mental aspect to it, right? Like, there's, like, to say Brittany Posey is who Brittany Posey is, which is probably the most amazing barrel racer competitively that there's ever been. And that's my opinion. Like, I know that, Sherry's won more than her and, this, that, and the other. But Brittany, just nothing bothers her.
She shows up on game day.
On anything. And it's just always in my head, I'm like, I want to be like that. But then she also trains horses, and I know myself well enough, like, I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm not patient enough to train horses yet. And hopefully with age, I'll be there. But I hate to say I'm a super impatient person because, like, I want to win now. You know what I mean? And that's kind of my whole not riding style when I actually compete, but like when I work horses, it's like if I ask you to do something, I want you to do it right when I ask it. And if I ask you to win, you need to win right when I ask it. And that's more of an internal thing, and I'm aware of it. And that's not a good thing, I don't think, for colts, because it's like I'm asking you to do this the same way that I've asked every horse to do this, and then they don't understand, and then I get mad.
Right. So it was 2015 that was your rookie year, correct?
Yeah, I went for half a year.
Half a year, and I think you were somewhere in the $30,000 range with that year.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting about you going down the road that some people can relate to and some cannot is you had to win to go. Period, exclamation point. Not even just that. You had to win to pay for the feed for the horses that were back home. The pressure that was put on you to win after, if you look at the timeline, 18 months before that, you had just basically got back in the saddle.
Yeah.
And then this pressure was put on you, and we were all watching it just like,
this is going to implode.
This is serious.
Yeah.
And you had to win. So kind of talk about that 2015 year. That's the first year you were on Tibby, and kind of when everybody started to realize that, okay, Tibby is an NFR caliber horse.
Yeah, so background on Tibby, I literally have rode that horse's neck more than any horse on the whole entire planet. The first time I ran her, I almost died. Like, she rated the first barrel, and she turned so hard that I just fell like this on top of her, like, embarrassing.
Oh, and she's a difficult horse to ride.
Yeah, there's a lot of go. But I think the pressure was, like, so insane. And like you said, we had no money. And the only way to pay for the horses and the breeding and me being able to go, like, I had to win or it wasn't going to happen. And that's why I only went half the year in 2015, because I literally hit 60 grand worth of barrels and I won 30,000. And I was just like, not me, but like financially, it was like, I can't keep going because I keep hitting barrels.
Yeah, there was no choice. The money ran out at that halfway point.
Yeah. And nothing against it, but like, we counted quarters, truly. And there's people that can attest to it. Cody O'Donnell, we ate a lot of tuna because it's all we could afford.
But it was like that for...
It was like that for a while.
For a long time before that. I can
well,
remember.
Because you lived with Dad.
Yeah.
I lived with Mom. Like,
yep.
And we did the every other weekend thing for a while, but when I was playing club volleyball, like, Dad ended up taking me to volleyball practice late one time, and that was like it on that.
Right.
Because I was like not allowed.
Well, and it's sad to say, but that's kind of the horse trainer journey. You know, it's a feast or famine thing, not for everyone, but from my experience with it and from your experience with it, that's all we know about it, is that it's feast or famine.
You have to be passionate to do this.
You have to be passionate, and you have to just let go of all expectations of any financial stability.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is, and especially I think more like the futurity aspect or like the breeder aspect, like the return that you get is enough to survive, but like you're not getting ahead. And even if you're rodeoing and you don't have the wow factor horse, you don't have sister, or you don't have, or roan sister, yellow sister or roan sister, you don't have J-Lo, you're not, you know, you don't have an outstanding breeding program like Brittany, you know what I mean? She's literally raised all of those amazing horses she's had since Duke and Stitch, and, you know, I mean, she had a couple others that she didn't raise, but like, if you don't have that, you're going to go broke doing this. So you have to have people backing you. And I mean, I just didn't. It was Dad, and Dad wanted to go with me because he loved Tibby, clearly, but he also didn't think that I was capable of taking her on my own. He literally did not. Like, he did not think I was capable of taking her and working her and taking care of her and doing any of that on my own, which I guess since I was 20, 21, I could see that. But at the same time, like, it was such a big goal for me that it almost, I felt like it degraded me as a person that he didn't trust me to take her, because like all I do is take care of my horses. Like, that is literally my thing. Like, I love it. I love taking care of my horses to the extent where Billy Jack's like, it's too much.
You're creeping everybody out.
Not like that. But anyways,
okay, so 2015 ended halfway through. You were, what, like 3 or 4 in the Rookie of the Year standings?
I think it was 5th.
Were you 5th?
Yeah.
You were up there. But kind of let that go, and then 2016 was the breakout year for you and Tibby.
Dude, it was badass. I have never had a winter that good ever again.
So start from the very beginning, though. What was the mindset going to, because, I mean, these are things that obviously we've talked about, but people listening, these are the little details that may change somebody's life in the future. So what was the mindset knowing that 15 was such a struggle going into 16? What changed?
I don't know. You're probably going to laugh. Truly, like, I read this book, and it's a series, and I'm not going to say the name of the book because
you have to.
People would be like, it's super cheesy. No,
absolutely say it.
No, I'm not, because it's like, you know, fandom, whatever. But the girl in the book accomplished the most extraordinary things because she didn't think about it before she did it. Like, she just did it. There was no, oh my gosh, I'm going to think about all these reasons why this isn't going to work. You know what I mean? She was just like, I'm good enough and I'm doing it. And literally, that's like all I would tell myself. And I finally was like, I don't care if I have to ride Tibby's neck and use her ears to steer her. I am getting it done. Because there was just something inside me that was just like, she's unbelievable. Like, she was an unbelievable athlete. To watch Tibby's old runs, it was the most powerful, like, magnificent thing. And it was the craziest feeling on her running to the first barrel. Like, you were going so fast, and there was no way she's going to be able to turn. And she would just bottom out and snap back the other way. And it was everything you could do to get her around him at that point. But I was like, I'm going to do everything I can do to get her around it. And it's almost just like not overthinking things is what I did. And I also, I'm the type of person, negative reinforcement is like my thing. Like, tell me I suck and I'll show you. You know what I mean? And I've been like that since I was probably like 13. And so that kind of is what got me going. But man, I won Billings, I won Casper, I won Fort Worth, I won second at Denver. You know, I won second at San Antonio. I won the RNCFR. The only place I didn't do good was Houston. course. And I turned the first barrel, and Tibby like ran back to the alley, and I was like, that's pretty weird because she works everywhere. But it was just phenomenal. It was so fun. It was the most fun I've had winter rodeoing, truly.
Kissed on my cheek. She said, well, all my life I've been...
And then I went to the American. It was bad. Like, it was bad on me and Dad's relationship, but it was like even harder on me and Tibby's, because it was like I walked in there and I looked at the setup and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to change my whole family's life, because I had gotten into the semifinals. I won the semifinals on her, and I could have won, a piece of the million. And I think, when you guys get Haley on here, she can attest to how much winning that chunk of the million, change your life. So, and I didn't even feel pressure, is what was so frustrating about the, aftermath of it, because I was not nervous. I was like, I have the best horse here. I'm going to win. And she ducked the third. And I was just flat. I was just floored. Could not believe it. Oh, man. You know how Dad is. He's like, what did you do to her? I literally...
That's putting it nicely. I remember it not being like...
Yeah, it was not that nice. But I was like, I literally wrote her the exact same. And, she didn't do it again until I got to Vegas. And then I went on, with the rest of the summer, and I had a great summer. I went to Calgary. They did a documentary. And
talk about the what was the show called again? The Religion of Sports.
Yeah, that was cool. That was really cool to be a part of. They had reached out to me in email, and they're just like, we want some barrel racers to be a part of it. And, this, that, and the other, and would you like to do it? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, how could you not? And then as a spectator, so this is what's so interesting, as this 2016, as a spectator, as a family member, something about that year, the way that it started to develop, I can tell you, it was probably one of the most inspiring things. And when I say inspiring, truly inspiring, to the point where I for me, the horses in the road, it was a thing I tried to escape because it was so painful for me. But, and you can remember the stupid phone calls, I'll get off this in a second, that I was making. You was like, Ivy, I'm going to find a calf horse, I'm going to get after it. And you were like, you just had a kid.
Yeah.
And I was just, but the only reason I bring that up is because what was happening with you that year, it's created this inspiration. And I'm sure there is 10,000 people out there who felt the same way.
Well, I hope so, because there's such a stigma to rodeo that you have to have money to make it work. And I can attest to the fact that you can drive to your NFR, to your first NFR, with your account $4,000 in the negative, and borrow money from your sister to get there, and have them run your card that you know is not going to work for your hotel, and then promise them that you're getting $10,000 the next day. You know what I mean? Because I made it there, so they have to give me $10,000. Little to my surprise that they don't actually give you the $10,000. They take the tickets, how many tickets you got out of that. So I didn't get $10,000, but I had enough to pay for my room. But I wish people would believe more, because there is just you have to have money to go, and you have to have this, and you have to do that. And we'll get to it later, but in 2017, I didn't even have a rig.
Yeah, let's get back to the Religion of Sports, because that was such a beautiful time for someone who loves you so much.
It was cool.
It was. I watched it a few times this year, and I think everybody who was on that, you, Sage Kimsey, and Fallon. I maybe not Fallon because she's got so much going on, but it was just the most beautiful piece of cinematography around rodeo I think I've ever seen.
Well, the cinematography was above and beyond of anything. Sorry, I have an itch. Of anything that has covered rodeo, because I feel like rodeo is slightly bland in the way that they portray us. You know what I mean? Watching stuff, it's old-timey farmer shows is what it looks like.
And that's why the gauge exists, people.
Well, yeah. No, it's a good change, because, right, everybody sugarcoats everything. Everybody's perfect. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not a perfect person. I've made horrible mistakes. I've made terrible choices. And I decided to fix my life. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's more universal, right? And I feel like this could be more universal for people because most of us are not perfect people and we haven't had a perfect walk of faith with the Lord. You know what I mean? Like, there's some of us over here that have had dark times and made dark choices.
You're saying over here. I feel like you're talking about me.
Well, both of us. I mean, right? Like, we're not perfect people, but I feel like that's a more universal concept instead of pretending that we all are, because you have sponsors and you have to look a certain way. And, you know, and this is the first time I've ever even said anything like that, because there is such a veil over rodeo. You know what I mean? God-loving cowboys. And it's true. Like, we are all God-loving cowboys, but you can't just make it look like, so if you're talking to the youth and you're just like, everybody that you look up to is perfect, and then there's somebody who is not perfect. You know, you're 60 or 16-year-old girl, you're not perfect, you messed up, you made a bad choice, whatever. You literally degrade yourself to the point where you think that you can't be like that when you're older. Like, you're putting a stigma in kids' brains. And I don't like that. I
don't like that either. And you know what? There's other sports. A lot of them are combat sports like boxing and UFC where
you get to be a badass.
So not even that. You get to climb the highest mountain, but then you get knocked down, and the comeback story is more exciting. And you're allowed that in other sports. In rodeo, everybody has to hide reality.
Absolutely.
For whatever reason. I don't know if it's because of what the perceived demographic is or what it is that keeps somebody from just being honest and real. It may be a fear of sponsorships. It could be 100 different things.
I think it's the sponsor thing, but I also think that it's like the heritage of rodeo. And when I say the heritage of rodeo, I think it's, no offense to all of the old-timey like rodeo people that I spend a lot of time with and have a lot of respect for, but like they have a certain idea of the way that they want rodeo to be perceived, and that's it. Like,
that's it.
Don't talk about the stuff.
A good example is, and this one hits home for us, but like the male barrel racer stigma. It's such a weird thing.
Yeah, that they're all gay.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing.
Yeah, and it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I I have friends that are male barrel racers and they're not gay.
Yeah, and it's never made a lot of sense to me, because barrel racing, like, you wouldn't call a jockey gay, you know, if he was a male or a female. All barrel racing is a horse race. If you think it's...
Yeah.
I don't know how it got
so... It's not like that.
I guess I don't know how it got so feminine. I think it's because the WPRA, and they kind of just grabbed a hold of that sport because they needed to.
Well, and you know what? And forgive me for saying this, but I think it does have a lot to do with the WPRA. But there does need to be respect for the WPRA, because the male barrel racers are very much like, we should be a part of that. You know what I mean? And to an extent, I'm like, yeah, I mean, sure. But at the same time, as a woman, and in the Western industry, women do get looked at differently. People can say that we don't, and it's 2020, but they do. And that association is one of the oldest all-women ran professional associations in history. And we didn't get equal money right off the bat. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And like, we worked for that. And the WPRA worked for relationships with the committees. And if men want to have their own professional barrel racing association, then you need to go through the trials and tribulations that women went through to be where they are in rodeo today. You don't just get to walk up and get that. And I feel like that's such a 2020, like, really, like, I'm going to say like a 2016 to 2020, like, or maybe even a 5-year span of like, I should get these things because I am a human. And it's like, you don't get great things just because you say you deserve them.
Well, at the very least, maybe okay, now we're just like talking pipe dreams, but maybe the PRCA would just do a male version. I mean, who knows? But I mean, let's shout out the American and shout out the WCRA for the inclusion of breakaway for girls. That's
I'm going on record. I love the WCRA. Like, I think the WCRA is the best thing since sliced bread. Like, they literally have it down. But I wish that it was taking off more than it is, because people like don't understand it. And they're like, oh my God, I have to push like 5 buttons to nominate this rodeo. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but you had no problem finding that Facebook post that lady freaked out on like last week and screenshotting it and sending it to everybody. But yeah, but you like cannot figure out how to nominate a rodeo for WCRA. What? You know what I mean? Like that frustrates me to no end. But like, it's such a great concept. And I like the American. I like more that they started paying more people this year. You know, I thought there was a lot of hype for a rodeo that only paid 4 people. You know what I mean? Like you pay 4 people, it's 100,000, and the drop to second was like, whoa. You know what I mean? And it's big dreams. Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's always been the Americans' thing, right?
Yeah.
It's that big money.
Yeah,
And
which is amazing.
for a 1-year event.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think it's great, personally.
Yeah. But like if you're invited, you only win 100, and you can go to, not that they're having anything right now, but you could go to a WCRA event and run against less people and not actually have to run at a WCRA sanctioned event. You can go to a jackpot and nominate and get there. And if you nominate enough, you only have to run once, and then you get to go run at 50,000. And the drop from first place all the way down to last hole, like at the WCRA, is a big bang for your buck. I mean, I don't know. I think I won 4th or 5th. No, I won 5th at Kansas City. I think I won like 13 grand. Like,
Yeah, it makes it worth it.
well, you make money. You know what I mean? And anyways, that's my rant. I love the WCRA.
Even more than that they treat the competitors like true athletes.
Well, it's about us.
It's about the athletes.
No, literally, like it's about us.
Yeah,
which is great,
because
Yeah,
that's not necessarily how the PRCA is structured.
Absolutely not. No. And not everything's for the committees of the rodeos. You know what I mean? Like they're in charge. Like they're putting in, you know, quite a bit of the legwork. And the PRCA, I mean, they work hard too. But like the WCRA, people are like, oh my gosh, there's nobody watching in the stands. I'm like, it doesn't matter, because it's not about that. It's for us. It's for us to make a living, because the people that started that have rodeoed and know how inconsistent it is. And we are probably one of the only professional sports that's not guaranteed any money whatsoever. And the WCRA is something I think that advances us to the point where we could be guaranteed money for bringing the best. I mean, J-Lo. And it's getting on like kind of the topic of like limited rodeos, and people are like, I don't like limited rodeos. I didn't like limited rodeos when I was a rookie. I was like, oh my God, this is so unfair. And then how hard I worked to get into Calgary, which is actually even harder to get in than the NFR. Like literally it's harder to get into Calgary than it is the NFR. After I got there and J-Lo did what she did over and over and over, like she deserves to go to places like that. I'm not even saying me. She deserves to do that. Do you deserve to do that right when you first start? No.
No, because you haven't proved anything yet.
Well, it's like not even a matter of proving. Like there's no way that you just get everything because you bought your membership. You know what I mean? I just don't think that's right. But that's just me, because I'm a competitive person. I know everybody doesn't think like that. I know they think that they paid their membership and that they should get to go. But,
well, and that's the PRCA is a member-based organization, and that's
so
the
it's the
mentality.
WPRA, yeah,
the
sure.
WPRA, PRCA, yeah. They're member-based, and so the mentality is that.
Absolutely. And then they're like, you know, we all paid the same. And I'm like, actually, if you want me to get you the audit report that I get from the WPRA every year, and you want to see how much I spent in entry fees compared to what you spent in entry fees,
we are not the same.
We're not equal, because I spent way more than you. Like, and some people rodeo hard and it doesn't go good. You know what I mean? But that's a small percentage. But like, you know, Facebook warriors are like, everybody gets equal opportunity. And I'm like, oh my God, Obama barrel racing, right? Like, no. Anyways.
So kind of back to the religion of sports, because we went off on a tangent there. A great tangent, but still a tangent nonetheless.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Because that was, I mean, you were such a newbie in the game at that point.
I felt special. They literally mic'd me up in the parking lot every day, and like it was like a week and a half process. It was so cool to be part of, and like the people that did it were awesome, and I wish I was still in contact with them, because they were super cool people and they totally respected what we did. And clearly people know that pretty liberal up there. And there are people that go to the Stampede just to, you know, hold up big signs that are saying mean things about rodeo. But those people truly respected what we did, and they got to see how we take care of the animals and how much we love them. And like, you know, and you know this, but like our horses growing up and even now, they ate before we did. Always. We missed Christmas stuff because we had to take care of the horses. And I know even you and I, like now, it makes it to where I can't spend time with people to the extent that I want to because I have to take care of JLo. Like I can't put that on other people because if I put it on other people, unless you're at the NFR, then you have to have somebody help you. But if you put it on other people all the time, you don't have a bond with them. You know what I mean? And I think the bond is what, because I mean, JLo would be great with anybody, surely. You know what I mean? But I don't think that she would be as happy as she is if I didn't do everything with her all the time.
Well, it's very stressful for a horse to be in a trailer 200 days a year, you know?
Yeah, and she takes it like a boss. I'm talking like doesn't kick in the trailer, eats, drinks, sleeps. I mean, she's amazing to haul and sweet and no health problems, totally sound, like never tries to kill herself. You know what I mean? Like she's truly the epitome of a rodeo horse, and I love her so much. But I didn't have her when I was on Religion of Sports.
No, you were still on Tibby.
Yeah, I had Tibby, and it was really hard for me to have that special bond with Tibby because Dad wanted that special bond with Tibby, and he had it. She liked him more than me, but that's because he made sure he was the one doing everything with her. And but it was cool for Dad to be a part of it too because, you know, Dad, I mean, he had nothing growing up. I mean, like when he left home, he didn't have anything. And like Tibby was like his breeding program, everything he ever dreamed of, everything he ever worked for, you know, was to have a horse of that caliber, and he had it in Tibby. So I get it totally. But
you get it now, but during
no,
even
it hurt
in
the show,
yeah,
we were not getting along.
You
that
could
good.
see the disdain in your eyes towards Kelly. And what was so interesting about that show is he had more airtime than everybody else, which I always found to be so odd in that because he's such a good speaker. But
yeah,
it was interesting to see the dynamic, and you could see, you know, I hate to say this, but we're so far past it now. You could see the seams of that whole relationship kind of coming apart even then.
Well, and you know what? It's how I felt. And I've explained this to Dad multiple times. He's like, well, that's not how it really is. I'm like, that's fine. Like, you have your reality, I have mine. But, like, I felt like he had no respect for me. You know what I mean? Like, none. And it just didn't sit well with me. And at first, I took it. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, why would he have respect for me? Like, what have I done? Right.
You're self-confident. Well, as somebody who, during that year, God, I think we probably talked 4 times a week.
It was rough.
It was rough for you. And
well, because Dad's not super nice. No. I mean, he's gotten nicer because I've kind of like drew a line. You know what I mean? But like, he's not super nice. And he was not like, as far as his life, like he wasn't happy following me around. But he didn't want to not follow me around because I know he wanted to be a part of Tibby's success. But he was like, it was not good.
No,
like,
for either person.
The whole thing was just like toxic. It was horrible. And hindsight, like, I don't know how we would have made it better, but I wish it would have been. But it was bad. And, you know, it just kind of went on, and I got ready for the NFR and went to the NFR, and it went horrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. They're like, and Tibby won AQHA Horse of the Year. Like, it was amazing. But
so you had this amazing year in 2016, and then to come in off of your rookie year with dirt and a couple pennies in your pocket to Thomas and Mack, win AQHA Horse of the Year like that. Like, for somebody like Kelly, like Dad, that's the culmination. There's nothing bigger than
that. It was
that. Like
the biggest accomplishment of his life.
The biggest
because he was
accomplishment
the
of his life.
owner and breeder. I mean, like, if you're in the breeding business or anything, like, that's it. Like, that's as cool as it gets. And it was great for that. But, like, I drove to the NFR. I had no money. Like, I didn't have any money to pay for my hotel room. Paige gave me money to get there. And I had nothing. Literally. And I pulled up over, you know, the hill and saw the Vegas lights. And I just, like, was driving by myself and I just, like, started crying. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, oh my God, I did it. I had to borrow money for fuel to get here, but I did it. And, you know, actually, I think Dad was with me, but he was asleep in the passenger seat. You know, and I got to go, and I got to take Racy, and I rode her in the Grand Entry, and it was, like, super sentimental. It was Tibby's mom, and super cool, but, man, it was not fun. And, like, I messed up on my whole schedule, on pretty much, I messed up on my whole schedule. I messed up on, like, the relationship that I had at the time. Like, I had a lot of, like, very toxic stuff going on. And, like, it clearly showed through. Like, Dad and I were not in a good place. You know, I had, like, a signing every hour from, like, 9 a.m. till I had to go get on my horse.
Having never experienced something like that.
Yeah.
And how brutal the signings actually are for everybody who makes it.
Oh, my gosh. Like, you know, and I go out first run and, like, get a no time on national television at the NFR on the AQHA Horse of the Year. Go Ivy. And I'm, like, sitting there signing an autograph, and this guy come up to me, and he's like, you're Ivy. And I'm like, yeah. Do you want an autograph? Whatever. And he's like, no. I just wanted to let you know I picked you for my pro fantasy team, and I'm pretty sure you just messed up my whole team last night. I was like,
thanks for that, guy.
Like, pretty sure I'm messing up my whole life right now, but okay.
Yeah. I just screwed my financial future, but cool story.
Yeah, I'm just ruining my life, but it's fine. So, and then it just, like, kept going. Like, I made okay runs here and now. Best run I made was on Pink Night, which we'll get into that later. But it was bad, and I don't know why it was bad. And, like, Dad's like, it's you. And I'm like, dude, literally, like, I'm doing the same exact thing I did all year, which was look at a spot on the dirt and kick to it and then pick my hand up.
Well,
that's the extent of what I did, and that's what I'm doing, and it's not working.
and to not, but what I was about to say is, in his mind at that time, there's no possible way his horse could be to blame. She's the AQHA Horse of the Year. She just won $200,000. There's no way this horse is at fault, is his mindset.
Let's be real. Kelly likes Tibby way more than he likes all of us.
I mean, I think even Dude Ranch horses he probably likes more than us.
I don't know. That was aggressive. Do you have daddy issues?
I'll let you answer that question.
You do.
I do. Just kidding. We're not picking on you, Dad, if you're listening to this.
We're not picking on you. I'm just telling my point of view, and we have grown from it. So don't be offended.
Anyways, continue.
Anyways, so that went bad. Well, then it, like, carried over into 2017, and I got 2 no times at Denver, which I had 1 second at the year before. And I went to Dr. Tischer, and I went there with my dad, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with Tibby, and it's you. And I'm like, I'm not kidding. I am not doing anything different. Like, I kept this as simple as possible, and it's not working. There's got to be something wrong. It was not this hard before. And so then I took her to Marty Tanner. Big shout out to Marty Tanner.
Marty Tanner, you need to be on the show.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. He needs to come on.
He's amazing.
He's a mad scientist.
And he's so funny. He's really funny. So then I took her to Marty, and, like, within 20 minutes, he's like, she has had gut ulcers, and, you know, she has that white eye. Well, she was, like, having, like, vision problems in it, and he ended up putting her on Osphos because she was having, like, some bone pain. And I had to put her on all this stuff for her hind gut ulcers. And he said she was slightly bleeding. And I got Famey and left Tibby with Jimmy Monroe. And she did everything with Tibby. And I threw Famey, poor Famey, in the trailer. She had just came to me from Mississippi. And it was super hot down there. I threw her in the trailer and I took her to Rapid City to the Champions Challenge. She had no hair. Like her little like nose and like her little butt and stuff like was like silky, like a human. Like she had no hair. And I took her up there and she was awesome. But I took her up there, ran her up there, and I came back and I went to San Antonio, and it was old school Tibby, like rank at San Antonio. It's like, I'm actually going to win it. And then I think I won like 4th, but she was great. And then I went to Houston, and it was awesome. That's the best I've ever done at Houston. And then I got unlucky in the semifinal that I got in, and I ended up 1 out and had some ground trouble in the wild card. But then I won the 25. I won 25,000 in the shootout, and like my stirrup to this day, that's my favorite run on Tibby. My stirrup fell off my saddle running to the first barrel on Tibby, and if you know Tibby, you know that that's super sketch. Like, and it was my inside stirrup going to the first barrel. Dude, it was amazing. Like,
what's funny about Tibby is we know some people who should be able to ride any horse on this planet who have fallen off of Tibby. We're not going to say their
or they're
names.
like, this isn't fun.
I do not. This is awful.
Actually, that's really hard. Which she is hard. And I tell people this all the time. Like, before I ran Tibby, I had to like Fred Whitfield it, right? Like, I'm like, boom, boom, like slapping my face, wake up. You know what I mean? We're like J-Lo, it's like, oh my God, this is going to be so easy. Which, and like, not in comparison, but like Tibby is like crazy fast, and like J-Lo's efficient, like super efficient. Anyways, besides the point. So that was great. Well, then, me and Ariana started our little like hauling era, and we went to Guyman, and Tibby ducked the 3rd barrel at Guyman, and it was pretty bad because she ducked it in both slacks, and before it was just in perfs.
And I think you forgot, but I mean, did she duck 4 times at the NFL? Or NFL?
NFR.
We've been
twice.
We have been drinking.
I hit a lot of barrels.
She ducked twice, and then she ducked at Denver as well in January after the
Yeah,
NFR.
dude, I said that.
Did you?
She ducked twice at Denver, and it wasn't.
Keep drinking.
Wasn't the 2nd barrel both times? It was the 2nd barrel and then the 3rd barrel, and then at Guyman it was in slack, and it was just the 3rd barrel, and like it wasn't like duck or like run off, like it was like, well, you know what I mean? Like it was weird. Anyways, I was convinced that there was something wrong with her, and I was like, Tibby needs time off. Well, and I have to correct myself because it said me and Ariana's like hauling era. Me and Anna hauled in 2016. But so then I had Famey, and I was like, I'm going to take this young horse, and I'm going to go to California. I'm going to go to the Champions Challenges, and I'm just going to take her. And she had like not been anywhere. Like I took her to Rapid City. I took her to Bay City. I took her to Rodeo All-Star, and she kicked their butt. I'm talking won the long round, won the 2nd round, and then I jumped on Tibby for the 2-man, and Tibby won the 2-man. But, like, she was coming on like that, and which is super abnormal for horses to just switch to rodeo so fast. And so I took her out to California, and I hauled with my friend Darby, and this has started the point of time where I had no rig. And maybe before that, I went to Arizona, and I jumped in a rig with Paxton Segelke. She was driving for Kelly Collier, and I jumped in a rig with her, and I rode with her to Fort Mojave, and I ran Famey at Fort Mojave, and she went like 4th, like worked amazing. So then, but they weren't going to Scottsdale right after that. They were going somewhere else. So then Darby was at Fort Mojave, but she was going to Scottsdale. So I threw all my stuff in Darby's rig. And then she continued to take me hiking and made me throw up on the side of the mountain. I will never forget that. But so then after our hiking trip, we go to Scottsdale. I forgot my shirt and my boots in Pux's trailer. And I was just like, oh my God. Huh. I guess I'll find some. And I had, been in Arizona years past because I would go stay there with Becky. And so I was like, I'll just text somebody. Let me look at let me see who's up. And so I texted somebody's girlfriend, and she gave me her boots, and Darby let me borrow her shirt that she had worn at Fort Mojave. And I just threw it on and warmed Famie up, and she won it by 4/10. And Darby was just like, how do you function? You don't have your boots. You don't, you're just straight survival mode all the time. And it's true, totally. Well, then I decided to go with Darby again, and we went out to California. And I took Famie, and she won second at, she won second in the regular rodeo at Redding. She won second at, what's that super cool rodeo? Same time as Redding. Let me think. I don't even remember. It's really cool. It's down in a hill. I'll think of it in a minute. Anyways, it was big rodeo. And I won second there. Then I drove back to Redding for the Champions Challenge, and she won second at the Champions Challenge. Mind you, this is during the Tiana Schuster, reign. I'm talking
conquering all.
Dude, 69. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? But for Famie to win second behind her at the Champion Challenge and at the other rodeo I went to, I don't know why I can't think of it. But I was just like, oh my God, she's the best thing I've ever had. She was so fun. Little scrappy, get down in her turns.
She's doing awesome now.
Oh my God, Brooke Wills, you are something else because so Darby's like, well, let's go stay at my grandparents on the way to Eagle Mountain. And I'm like, okay. And so we go. Well, I had no idea if Famie was really scared of cattle. Well, she ended up being so scared of cattle that she jumped out of her pen and got her legs caught in the panels and popped them apart and filleted her legs. Well, then she was hurt. And so that was the end of that. And Tibby was what I thought was hurt. And I can't believe I missed this part of the story. So I had ran J-Lo before all of this. After the NFR in 2016, they took 5 from the NFR and 5 from the ERA.
When the ERA was a
ERA.
thing. Yep.
They took 5 from that.
Elite rodeo athletes, if you guys can't remember.
And they didn't announce it until after the NFR, and I knew I was going to be in the top 10 no matter what at the end of the NFR because of how much I had won in the regular season. So I never went to a qualifier for the American. So then I get home from Nevada, and they're like, oh, we're taking 5 from this and 5 from that. Literally the day after I got home. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get to go to the American. This is so stupid. And I had to load my horses back up, drive through a snowstorm back to Buckeye, Arizona to go to a qualifier. And Kenny called me and was like, hey, because clearly J-Lo's a super badass, and she had already qualified 2 people for the American, and she was on my bucket list of horses. And he called me and was like, do you want to run J-Lo at the qualifier? She'll just give you some cushion. She's super nice horse. So I know that you've been having some trouble with Tibby, and this should give you some cushion so that you don't feel as much pressure. And I was like, that's a great idea, and I really do want to run her. So I met Kelsey at Buckeye, and she was like, yeah, dude, literally you just run up to the barrel and pull on her. Well, you know that's not a Kelly thing.
No.
You don't just run to the barrel and pull. It's a lot more broke down than that.
Bell racing's an art.
Yeah, it is. And so I couldn't really figure that out because every time I ran J-Lo towards a barrel, I ran back out the alleyway. It's really weird.
So what you're saying is do not
run
and pull?
I just didn't understand. Well, then, so Kelsey was like, it'll be fine. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I go back to the trailer, and either the bit was on the head stall inside out or upside down, one or the other. And so every time I was pulling on it, it was just poking her in the face. And I didn't understand how to pull. So when I pulled, it was I pulled really hard because it was Tibby was kind of turn. You know what I mean? And so then my dad fixed that, and I ran her at the barrel race, and I ran a 16.9 on her the first time I ran her. The first time.
And you're oh shit.
I was like, I need her. but I couldn't get her because she was Kelsey's. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, oh, okay, like, thanks for letting me run your horse. And I ended up 1 out, 2 out or something in the American, and I never thought about it again. Well, then Tibby and Famey were both hurt, and I was like 14th in the world or something. And I was just like, man, I haven't seen J-Lo anywhere. Like, haven't seen her doing anything. And I knew that Kelsey had, a lot of futurity colts. I was like, well, maybe she's not going to go this time, or I'll just call Kenny, because, like, when I had called Kenny, it was like him and Kelsey. You know what I mean? And so I called Kenny, and I was like, hey, what do you think about me taking J-Lo to rodeo, because my horses are hurt and I'm 14th in the world? And he was like, I'll call you back. And he called me back, and he's like, yep, sounds good. She's at swim place. You can pick her up in like a week or 2 or something. And so I picked her up, and I brought her home. And yeah, it was not as smooth sailing as I had thought it was going to be, because I thought that I thought that Kelsey knew, you know what I mean? Because she was in on the decision, like, before that, and, like, was, like, really cool with it. We'll just say that that's not what happened.
Well, and at the same time, it's not like your money situation was changed at this point. So there was so much pressure to make the NFR.
I had to make the NFR, partially financially, but the other part, I needed redemption.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. I carried the 2016 NFR on my shoulder, like, I mean, whoa. I had serious ego problems. Like, not even like I had a big ego, but I was just like...
A crushed ego, maybe, is what you mean.
Crushed ego. Like, literally, like, everybody couldn't believe that I made the NFR, as far as, like, notable competitors and notable trainers and stuff. I was like, God, they're laughing at me. They were like, she shouldn't have been there anyways, and she proved us right.
Well, did you kind of feel like you were like the black sheep in 2016? Like,
a little bit. You were
kind of like standing over here and all the cool kids
No,
over here?
I was a black sheep in 17. I was not in 16. In 16, people were like hyped for me, right? Like, they're like, Tibby's badass. Well, then, like, I got Famey, and then I got J-Lo, and like that whole deal. And a testament to J-Lo, like, she freaking cracked out and just placed for me and just made my life super easy. But there was big problems. This is my personal opinion, but there was big problems with Dad and J-Lo. Like, Tibby's better than J-Lo. You know what I mean?
Of course he's going to feel that way, because
Tibby's his pride and joy, which is fine. And they're two totally different kinds of athletes. They're not comparable because they don't work the same. You know what I mean? Like, you can't compare them because they don't work the same. I
have this interesting memory of 2017. It was so, take a sip of your drink. And just so everybody knows, we have a full bar here at the Gauge. So if you're hearing some inconsistencies with tone and slurring of words, that's because we've been drinking. But
you've been doing it for a while now.
For quite a while. Yeah, we had a pre-recording
According
party.
to you, I'm a professional and nobody can tell that I have been.
I'm mostly referring to myself because I keep mixing up years.
I
and
do.
Even sports, I compared
to the NFL.
NFL to the NFR. So just bear with me here.
I'm just going to say I'm philosophical when I drink. Not anymore.
Apparently.
Now all credibility is gone.
Anyway, I have this great memory kind of bouncing off of what you just said.
What?
In 2017, we were at Loveland. And I had flown back from DFW to Loveland. Not to Loveland, but to Colorado. I don't know why, but we were at Loveland. I was there with you. Dad was there. Kelly was there. And J-Lo was like just there. And you were on Tibby, and you were just like, would you please exercise J-Lo? And I was like, I didn't even, at that time, like, I knew who she was and all that. But she was like this, just the way she was being treated was like this bullshit backup horse. And I just remember exercising her and just like, wow, this is such a nice horse.
Just so for the record, I never treated her like that.
I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about, I'm not even saying.
I've treated that mare like the freaking queen because I love her and she's adorable.
I'm not saying anybody treated her like that.
No, but it was just like,
it was like
the air of it. Because you're at, Dad's place, you're at Kelly's place, and Tibby is the queen. right? And it's like nobody else.
Which she should be, right?
Well, yeah,
if
absolutely.
that's your horse that you brought up through a breeding program, by no means is anybody saying it shouldn't be that way.
No, I'm not
Anybody who
saying that.
raises a horse of that
But
caliber,
hindsight,
they're always going to be their
yeah,
focus.
hindsight, like J-Lo now, and like it's like, man, you gotta respect them for what they are. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
You can't like
it's a
have
1 in a million
these
horse. They both
sentimental-
are.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
For totally different reasons.
Absolutely. But yeah, so 17, and really like J-Lo and me, like we bonded like a lot. I haven't had that kind of like bond with a horse ever. And she was easy to love. And so I just started rodeoing, and it was like, since I wasn't on Tibby, like I couldn't take any of the rigs kind of thing. So I just like jumped in with Anna. Well, it got to the point where I was hauling with Ariana and I had no money. Anna paid Ariana, you're like true friend. Anna paid for everything. And I don't know if her parents know that, but now it's on a podcast. But she did. She paid for my food. She paid for my horse's feed. She paid for the fuel. She paid for my plane tickets. She made sure that I never felt left out if we went somewhere and people were spending money. You know what I mean? Like, the only reason I made the NFR in 2017, and we're going to be lucky if I don't cry saying this, is because of Ariana. Like, literally. From beginning to the end.
And she was never bitter.
And she was on the bubble too. We were both on the bubble, and she literally was like, which we had some hard times. I mean, yeah, she laid down in the grass and cried one time. I like cried in the truck multiple times. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it was a struggle, but Anna never quit trying for me. And that was like Anna's whole thing. She was like, the best thing that you could possibly do is make it to the NFR on J-Lo and Famey. It's like the best thing you could do for yourself.
Yeah, very few people have friends like that, and for you to make it and for her to not make it, and I by no means want to speak on somebody else's journey. I just from looking at it from the outside in, I mean, you made it.
It broke my heart, to be completely honest.
But, I mean, how humbling is that to know that if you didn't have this one singular person's help, you wouldn't have made it? And you may not be where you are now without those events happening.
No.
It's humongous.
No, like, I would not. I owe Anna so much. And, you know, we've had our rough patches in our friendship and whatever. Everybody does. But that never changes how much love I have for that human being, because she cared about me when no one else did. And she loved me as a friend. Like she did, though.
Pause.
Yeah, she loved me as a friend more than, you know, anybody outside of my family ever has. And I had, you know, same, like I had a horrible stuff going on as far as relationship wise. And Anna was just like there.
'Cause there ain't no rest for the lost and the
But again, like she just pretty much made it all happen. And like at the very end of the bubble, we kind of split up. Like I had a different plan than she did. Like I went to California and stuff. And so we kind of split up right there. But throughout all of that, I had met Billy Jack that year too. It was kind of like a different things were coming into my life that made my life as good as it is now, like J-Lo and Billy. But after all that, you know, it just was such a battle to get to the NFR in 2017. Like the bubble is no joke. I hope it probably will happen if I continue to rodeo like I do, or if they even start to have rodeos again. I'll be on the bubble at some point, but it's horrible. Like you're so tired and so fatigued and so unsure, and
Well, and your husband knows better than anybody because he finished 16th in the world.
it's like rough go. And the only reason you're there is because of yourself. You know what I mean? So, but I definitely took a lot out of me to make it that year. And I had 3 amazing horses, like really good. And So then I went down and like spent the rest of my time in Texas, and I was trying to like actually prep for the NFR, like make runs, go to Northside kind of thing. And so I did, and I had J-Lo, which was owned by Kenny and Dale. I had Famey, who was owned by Doug. And then I had Tibby. I didn't have Tibby. Tibby was in Colorado. I wasn't allowed to have Tibby. Tibby had to stay with Kelly. And but I was making runs on Famey and J-Lo, trying to get ready, have my timing sharp, because that's something I didn't do the year before. I went to one barrel race before the NFR. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to be mentally sharp. I'm going to be competitive. I'm going to be in the right state of mind when I get there. And, you know, this, that, and the other. And I took Famey and J-Lo. And at one point I did take Tibby to Northside. And Famey was pretty tight. And Famey's just a tighter horse. And so I figured she wouldn't be my original, or the first horse I'm going to start out on, right? Because my first run the year before was terrible. Like, really bad. And I do think that first run like sets you up for the whole NFR, which you could come back and like rebuttal and stuff, but I mean, it's kind of hard.
I mean, how much PTSD did you have from the year previously? Like coming down the tunnel.
Then, you know, me and Dad have our big blow up, like big one. And it was actually at Bryce and Karen's house, and it was bad. And like we had a blow up before that at the American semifinals and really like the deal at the American semifinals is what solidified for me that I was done. You know what I mean? It just took me a while to get the stomach to say it. And when that happened at Bryce and Karen's and he wouldn't let me take Tibby, I was just like, whatever. And then, you know, last minute, he's like, I want Tibby to go to the NFR with you and, you know, try to make amends. And so then I go to Northside to run her because she deserved to go that year. She won money to go too. And, I mean, they all won about the same, J-Lo, Tibby, and Famey. But I ran her at Northside and she ducked. And I was like, I'm not going to run her my first run at the NFR. That went over swell. Like, not good. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to run. But I knew who I was going to run. I was going to run J-Lo. She's pretty free indoors. Like, when I got her, like, she was super free indoors. Billy always joked, like, she would run into the arena and she was like, oh, my God, there's a barrel in here. Every time. And she was pretty strong in the face and whatnot. And I liked it. Like, you couldn't make her hit a barrel at that point. And so I went into it knowing that, well, I was supposed to have, because I was taking 3 horses to the NFR, I needed 3 stalls. And so I needed a horse for the Grand Entry, and they were supposed to supply me with one. Well, they didn't. But then Jimmy or Tassie or somebody pulled strings with Chase Servey, and he was like, you can ride one of my pickup horses, but you can't have it for Grand Entry practice. You need to ride something for Grand Entry practice. And Tibby also has like this little deal in the alleyway where she almost like pretty much like smashed her face on the gate in 2016. So I was like, you know what? I'll just do Grand Entry practice on her so that I can get her in the arena. And I don't know if like it made Dad mad or like what it was, but after that he was just like not having it. Not to be like too much information, but like,
well, this is your party, as they say, your show, so you can say anything you want to say. Yeah,
and I totally get points of views are different and all that stuff, and I respect his point of view. But this is like how I feel about it. I had nothing. I won 400,000 on Tibby. And all I had to show for it was the black truck I had. That was it. Not gonna work.
Half that truck was free.
Yeah.
From Ram National Circuit Finals.
Yeah. Like, I can't make a life doing that. And so then I just went on. I rolled on. J-Lo did amazing. I 0.09 from winning the average and setting a new average record at the NFR. It was amazing. It was like...
What was it like when you split that round with Lisa?
Oh my God, I cried like a little baby. I did. It was just like, I knew so many people did not believe in me because like, oh my gosh, she just like gets horses and the horses are good, and like, you know, and you're not supposed to think about those things, but like, I know people think it.
Well, and nobody knew what a struggle it's been
No.
since 18, 19 years
And they
old
probably
for
don't
you.
care, which is fine. You know what I mean? I don't care that you don't care because it's my life, and I know that people have had worse things happen to them. I mean, as far as like parenting, did we have the best parenting in the world? No. But there are people's parents that put cigarettes on their kids. You know what I mean? Like, there's worse things in the world. I'm aware of that. Totally. So no, I don't need pity. I don't need anybody to feel sorry for me. I don't want your pity. I do want people to know that you don't have to have stuff handed to you on a silver platter for things to work in your life. You know what I mean?
And more power to the people who do, who have parents who help them get there. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
There's so many different paths.
That's cool. You know what I mean? When you have
it's
parents that are
excellent.
like, I am going to give you everything in the world. You know what I mean? Like financially, everything. Like, that's cool. I'm not saying that's not.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah. Everybody has a different path. And anyways, I won like, I don't even know. Did I win like 150,000? And like Kenny and Dale were
second. I think you won second in the aggregate that year.
yeah, and like placed in like 8 rounds or something. I won a round, pink night. It's our night. And it, you know, it was freaking awesome. Like, it was
And no
so cool.
stress. No stress like the previous year.
No, there was a lot of stress. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on. Like, Doug was pretty mad that I didn't run Famey. And then there was like the Tibby and Dad thing.
I guess I should amend my statement and say no stress inside the arena.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
This was the interesting thing, being your family member, as I slur my words from this
Family.
Tito's, and that's not a sponsor.
I'll put it on the list.
All of us kind of removed ourselves, like, because it was so heated and there was such a clash from both sides. And I can just think back to being like, I got to stay really far away from this and see how this goes. So none of us, when I say us, I guess I'll only speak for myself. I think page 2 though, and some friends and stuff, none of us really understood what was going on there until a little bit after.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, watching it just looked like you were in this Zen state, you know, like this float like a butterfly state. Where you were just consistency. It was a clinic for someone at their second NFR.
So that's that golden pony that I was on. Dude, I'm not kidding you.
Let's talk about the horses you were up against who were there that year.
Oh.
That was the year that Amberly Moore was
Dominating.
destroying everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like heated in the arena. Like, it was tough. And J-Lo's just like, you know, 13-7, 13-5, like, whatever. And like, there are even any barrels in here? You know what I mean? Like, she's just hilarious. But that's like the power of J-Lo. It's insane. I can step on her and it's just like the most centering feeling in the world. And literally, I can attest to it, and I've said it before, she absorbed all of the bad things in my life and turned it into good. All of it. And after the NFR in 17, and Dad was like, either you buy half a Tibby or whatever, and, you know, and I don't remember all the logistics of it, but like, I lost Tibby, and it broke my heart, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried. And Billy Jack was the one that was just like, you're going to be fine. I know you think this is the end of the world, but you're going to be fine. And he's the only reason I had, because I didn't believe in myself. And Dad does have an interesting way of making all people around him feel like they aren't capable of anything without him. You know what I mean? Like, he just has that air about him, and he just has a certain way about him that makes people feel that way. And
Well,
that's
a lot
how
of
I
it's
felt.
just he's such a confident in himself being that he's just his overshadowing figure a little bit, especially being his kids at that time.
Like,
it's
his
just
way is
very-
the only way. And I was raised like that. You know what I mean? So it was hard to be like, I'm going out on my own. You know what I mean? And Billy Jack's like, you got this. And I did it. And it's been amazing.
Absolutely. It's so inspiring because a lot of people who will be listening to this, they may not be like, okay, who's Ivy's dad? People aren't necessarily going to understand all the people that you're referencing in your story. Mm-hmm. And like I said, this is your story. But the underlying meaning of this story is it doesn't matter how shitty it gets, how far back you start. It doesn't matter.
Well, and clearly, I mean, not to save face, but like, I'm not going to the full extent of how stuff was. But like, if you talk to any of the people that were around me all the time, like, stuff was bad. I mean, it just was. And J-Lo just like fixed my life. And so did Billy. Like, he was just like, all of these things, like, life is not hard. That's what he told me. You make it hard. It's like, no, I don't. And then I thought about it. I'm like, oh my God, I do. I make stuff way harder than it is. And, and 18 was like super fun. I had a lot of fun in 2018 and running J-Lo. And I don't really think that we had any like huge wins or, you know what I mean? Like, it was like not dominating, but it was just like placed everywhere.
It was a cruiser year.
Yeah, I just placed everywhere. And then, we breed Kenny and them, like, they pull embryos and stuff. And she came back from getting embryos pulled that year. And I'm not kidding. I ran 18 O's on a standard for like 3 weeks, maybe a month. And Billy Jack's horsemanship really just like saved us. Because I ran at Reno after running 18 O's for like 3 weeks. And I ran another 18-0, and they were winning it with a 17-0. And I came back, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck is going on. And Billy's like, okay, can I go ride her? I was like, no.
No, you team roper.
This is my baby. And he's like, seriously, just let me go ride her. She came back in a full body sweat, clearly from just like kind of throwing a princess fit. But, and I was like distraught. And like any of my friends that know me, like know, like when my horses get super sweaty, I get like super uncomfortable. Like, I'm like, oh my God, they're stressed. And, so I'm like, oh my gosh, so I'm like spraying her off and like trying to get her ready for a run. And I was like, what the heck? And he was like, I'll show you what I did in the warm up. And okay. So we go over there and he shows me what I did and I do it. And she runs a 17-0. And then I go to Pleasant Grove and like win second. And, Billy Jack, and I've rode with him so much. Like, he's taken my horsemanship to a whole other level. Like, basic horsemanship is super important, but like this next level of horsemanship of like sharpening horses to the extent of being able to beat the best in the world, or in my case, usually place amongst them, because that's what I do. I'm not usually like a first place kind of gal. I'm like second, third, fourth-ish all the time, which is great. Like, you can go to the NFR winning second every time. People need to realize that.
Well, what people need to realize is that you won the 2019 average by consistently being in the top 6 every night.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I had to learn in 2018. I like went in there like, I'm not going to say overly confident, but I was like too passive. I was like, J-Lo's just like going to win the average. And we had done all of these things to sharpen her, to make her more, especially outdoors. She needed backed off, snappier, and put on her butt. Like, because she'd get up and like in your hand and like root her nose kind of and like run by kind of stuff outside. Like, she was not proficient outdoors. And so we did all that, and she got to where she was super good outside. Well, then it made her where she was ready inside, and I was not ready for that, like, at all. And so I go in 2018, and she's like being ready, and I'm like, dude, I've rode so many rated horses. Why am I having trouble with this? But it was because I had my set timing on her. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have Famey anymore. I didn't have Tibby anymore. I just ran J-Lo in 2018. 2019 was super fun. And Calgary was awesome. Like, it was super good. And I had so much fun at Calgary last year. You know, I ran J-Lo in the mud for the first time, and like she like won the day money, and then I was like she ran a 17.0 at Calgary, and prior to that, the fastest I had ever been there was a 17.3. So I was like, and I was ecstatic to run the 17.3 because I ran the 17.3 the day before. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, I ran a 17.3 at Calgary. Like Haley and Tiani are like 17.1, 17.0, 16.9. And I'm like, oh, I ran a 17.3. And so like that, I like cried after my run. That was probably like one of my most memorable runs on JLo as far as regular rodeo season. And then after that, I struggled a little bit. I hit some barrels. I hit at Salinas. I hit at Spanish. I just really didn't do that good. And then I went back to my like Colorado rodeo circuit thing that I like to do, because it's like I high school rodeoed in those arenas. So I feel I didn't high school, I junior high rodeoed. Let me correct myself, because I didn't high school rodeo. But like we grew up going to those arenas.
Oh, absolutely. I high school rodeoed, so yeah, I absolutely remember
Eagle. Everything. You know what I mean? So it's like comfort zone.
Cortez was my favorite for some reason.
I love Cortez too. I really do. I like going to Cortez. And so it was like comfort zone and got back in the groove. Then I went to the Northwest, and again, I had some funky stuff go on, like something weird at Caldwell. If anybody saw me run at Caldwell, I was scratching my head just as much as they were. Like, it was super weird. And then I got back on my roll, and I love the Northwest, like Letterbuckroom, Pendleton. I like Kennewick, but I haven't done good there in like 4 years. But going up to Judy Frazier's house and like having that much fun is the bomb. Like, I love the Northwest, and if we don't get to go this year because of COVID-19, I'm gonna cry. And I don't think we're gonna get to go, but it's so fun. And so I went to Puyallup, and I was on the bubble, and I'm like, I hate mud because I hate cleaning my tack from the mud. It's the worst. And I hate ruining my bell boots and stuff. And so we go, and I ran my first run, and JLo was solid, and I think we placed or we were 1 out or something. And then the second round is about to start, and it starts storming. And, like, lightning, like, hits the Ferris wheel or something. And they evacuate everybody.
Lightning hit the Ferris wheel, no big deal.
It's no
Sorry
big
if you
deal.
died.
Yeah. It was, like, lightning storm plus rain. And so then they, like, ran us into this tent, and blah, 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 all this dramatic stuff. And then, so I go up there the next morning, and Billy knows I'm a total wimp. And I was like, I'm not going to run. Everybody left. He's like, Ivy, we're going up there, you're saddling JLo, and we're going to see what it looks like. Because the arena is so far from where you park at Puyallup. It's not like I'm going to walk up there and then watch and then walk all the way back and then saddle and then walk all the way back up there, because you will have shin splints if you do that, because it's so far. You have to walk through the fair. Like, literally, people are, like, walking in the fair with their children, and you're, like, leading your barrel horse through the fair. And there's, like, camels and, like, this guy that does, like, wood carvings with a chainsaw. So if you, like, take a colt to Puyallup and, like, walk him through there, and that guy turns on his chainsaw when you're walking by, it's going to get pretty western. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know how somebody hasn't died there before. But so we go up there, and it's, like, a mud hole. So bad. And I'm like, I'm not going to run. And Billy's like, you need to watch the first couple girls go. Okay. So I watched the first couple of girls go, and this little girl goes in there on this little buckskin and is hauling ass. I'm talking like whipping him from the gate. And that sucker buries down to turn, and he's totally fine. Buries down to turn at second, totally fine. Turns third, totally fine. And it was like, ding, light bulb, I'm running. And so I got on JLo, and she, like, did a little prance in there, and she worked so good. Like, she ran a 14.3 in straight, like, water. And everybody else that made the short round ran in the group that got to run in the dry ground, and me and one other girl made it back. But JLo was, like, 1 out of placing in the round. Well, then I had to run 3 times that day, and she won that next round and the next round. And I was, like, solid on the NFR after that. Like, I didn't have to worry about the bubble anymore. But then there was, like, a dispute. So something happened at Sheridan. I don't know all the details, but anyways, this group got together and they're like gonna sue Sheridan and like try to like make Puyallup not count because it was a tour rodeo and Sheridan was a tour rodeo, and they ended up winning Sheridan, but they made it not like count towards world standings because they stopped the slack because people like pancaked and like almost died. Well, then these people who have like, you know, big time lawyers, I guess, are like, we're gonna sue you guys and all this stuff. So Jimmy called me during my bachelorette party while I was in the letterbuck room, letting her book, and she's like, I know that you turned out of everything because you're like, I'm good. She's like, but you might want to quit turning out of everything.
Because this money doesn't count.
It might not count because, not naming names or anything, but so-and-so got a lawyer. And I'm just like,
well, shit.
yeah, but ended up they didn't get it done. So that was good for the NFR. And then to speed up to like 2019 NFR, it was like a dream come true. It was so fun. I had the best time ever. And as far as just like an experience, like it was happy times, just like 2018. So much fun. Kenny and Dale are super chill, super fun to work with as far as like riding horses for them. And by horses, I mean just J-Lo, which I do have the J-Lo baby now. But like, it was amazing.
It was fun. It was fun being there because it was such a light atmosphere last year.
That's what Cody said. Cody O'Donnell.
Cody was ecstatic.
Dude, he's like, this was so like chill. You're so chill by yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Zen mode.
Well, it's so exciting because you're 25 years old and the sky is kind of the limit at this point. And at this point, you prove so much. There's not a whole lot of pressure other than getting a world championship, you know, which obviously you want. Everybody does who does this. It doesn't matter the sport or it doesn't matter the event.
Yeah,
everybody
pulls at your
wants
heartstrings.
It does.
You're like,
Everybody
I don't
wants
want
a
to win
gold
the
buckle.
world. I just want to go like, yeah, I just want to make the NFR every year too. Clearly, like that's a realistic goal. But like when you go there, you're like, if I do really good, I could win the world.
I just think that the journey that you've been on to get where you're at is an inspiring one. And there's a lot of other inspiring athletes out there, but it's so easy to quit. There's so many reasons to quit. And the interesting thing about your story is I don't think you felt like you could quit.
No.
Like there was no other option for you.
Yeah, and I don't think people know this, but like I didn't graduate high school. I didn't go to college.
They don't know it. You never have said this.
This is it. Like
Yeah.
I have to make this work.
Yeah.
Or like I'm gonna be like cleaning people's houses or something, or like be like Billy Jack's trophy wife, one or the other. But if I'm gonna be a trophy wife, I definitely have some serious work to do.
Just some sleep and no overnight trips.
Yeah,
It'd be
little
fine.
Botox.
Little Botox. We're in Dallas, Fort Worth. There's a lot of places to get that taken care
Well, I'm gonna tell you, there's not a lot of places to get that taken care of in Nowata, Oklahoma.
You don't say. But it's inspiring because with your back against the wall, the likes of which a lot of people just, you know, there's no other way for you to go and have a good life if you didn't do it because of the path you took, which at the time, definitely not the right path. I can tell you anybody who knew was like, what is this chick doing?
What are you doing?
But you held so firm on what your path was going to be and where you knew you wanted to go. And now you're here. And I think so many people are going to be able to look at you when your career's done, when you hang it up, when you decide that it's time to have kids or whatever it is you married people do.
What? No, what?
Did you not hear me?
Oh, you said me have kids.
Yeah, when you decide to have kids and do what married people do, I think you're going to have a lot of pride knowing that you inspired a lot of people. And as the sport of rodeo expands, we're trying to help here at the Gauge to expand it as much as we can. But as it expands and there's more light shined on the athletes like you with stories like this, and we get to hear more about the people who've struggled and overcome the odds. When the next generation comes in, they're going to get to look at an Ivy Saebens, because you did get married in October. I should know that because I officiated the wedding.
You were there.
This is
I
the
was
second
there.
time you forgot it today.
Yeah.
that I
You act
officiated
like
the
it
wedding?
wasn't like
Yes.
a thing.
Okay,
I mean,
so-
Tyler Wade disappeared. Like we had a disappearance. At
I
my
know,
wedding,
but do you
and
know
don't
how
even
many
remember
people
it?
have brought up to me, like, do you officiate weddings?
You're like, no, actually, Ivy planned her own wedding by herself, and she needed me to do it because it was
You know what's
it was
funny?
kind of last minute.
What's funny, it was so last minute that maybe
I'm not
2
gonna say it
hours
was
before-
last minute. I'm just gonna say that I did it myself, and I
the
know
wedding-
my time constraints.
The
okay?
wedding wasn't last minute.
which is last minute.
The wedding wasn't last minute. The setup and the structure of the wedding, so last
They're
minute.
like, "How do you want your tents?" I'm like, "What do you mean? I thought you just like set them up."
Yeah. I
You're
got
like,
the
"How
paper.
do you want your tablecloths?" I'm like, "I mean, put them on the table."
I got the paper for what you wanted read
and then
right before we pulled up.
then I was like super, because they were like, everybody was watching me while I was like signing the marriage license, and like Billy's like all professional, and I was like, da da da. Well, then I signed my name wrong on it. I put Ivy Conrado. I didn't put Ivy Saebens.
It's just you've had one name your whole life.
So
it takes
then
a while.
on my marriage license, there's a C, and then it's like S over the top of it, and then I try to like make it look like I didn't mess it up.
So this is funny. None of us know what's going on. I was Googling, how do you fill out a marriage license?
Dude, so was I. I was like, I don't
couldn't figure it
understand
out.
this at all. And
It was complicated.
there was like not a waiting list, but like people in Nowata get married all the time, and I'm not saying that Nowata is not a highly educated town, but I am going to say that there's not a lot of people with teeth. So,
Take that for what you will.
yeah, I mean, totally. But I literally was like, people fill this out and they know what they're doing, and I have no idea what I'm filling out right now. Like, literally the next day, you and I had to Google how to fill it out.
It was embarrassing. But
People don't tell you that because they have wedding planners, and they're like, this is what you do. I didn't have a wedding planner. I literally, me and Lindsay and Duke and you and Mom and like, you know, a couple people pitched in, but like pretty much me and Lindsay planned the whole thing. The whole thing. And then I sent out my my invitations like super late. But at first I wasn't gonna send invitations. I was just gonna send out a mass group text like, hey, you wanna come to my wedding? And they're like, and I did.
how many people were offended by,
Dude.
like, you not knowing how to formally fill out a wedding invitation?
Well, and honestly, like, I hate to sound cheap, but when I really like sat down and was like, how many people are you gonna invite? I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to pay for that many people. So if you didn't get invited, like it was truly because I'm a cheap ass. But and I paid for my whole wedding. You know what I mean?
You were as shocked as anybody when you pulled up to actually see how it was set up.
It was beautiful and really fun and super laid back. And I've been to some weddings that were not that way, and it was really stressful, and everybody was crazy.
It was all done 5-6 hours before the wedding. There was a few people standing around, me, your grandmother, Jimmy Monroe, some other people. Like, let's put some knots in this tablecloth.
That looked good. That was
Let's-
your call.
let's-
Everybody told me.
Let's put some knots in this tablecloth. Let's hang some balloons here. All right, let's put these tables here. It was all
And then
just
we
thrown
ran out
together.
of plates.
Ran out of plates. And who was responsible for that?
I ordered all the plates.
You. That's what I'm...
How do you run out of plates?
No,
Half.
that's what
She
I'm
ordered
saying.
half the
no,
quantity.
No.
There were 50 plates for a
dude,
wedding,
I
dude.
ordered 150 plates. I
got
don't know where they
50.
went.
50
And I'm
plates.
sure when I actually like unpack when our house is done here pretty quick, I'm going to find them. Because Lindsay's like, I don't want to freak you out, but we don't have enough plates. So we're like, oh my God, we're going to have to send somebody to Homeland to go get some paper plates for my wedding, which was totally fine because
It was fine.
the cake was good, whether it was on a paper plate or not.
It was
And
good
I
cake.
got all of my decorations on Amazon, just so everybody knows that. You guys get like super expensive wedding planners. It doesn't have to be like that.
Oh, no, it does. You just got lucky with the people who were around.
No.
Let's not mislead people. Unless you have a good family unit who's willing to work their asses off 4 hours before a wedding, it's not going to work out.
You guys, even if it was terrible, that was my whole outlook on the thing. It was like, I don't care if you guys don't like it. Like, really, like, if you don't like it, then don't come.
Except for the people who were already there.
If you don't like it, then leave.
And I was stranded. I didn't have a truck.
Yeah, dude, you're
point of the wedding story is
I'm last minute.
it'll work out.
Billy can attest to that.
It'll work out.
Yeah, and he's like, you don't ever actually have a plan. Like, you just, like, float along and then you wing it, and then for some reason it works out. And I'm like, yeah.
This has been wedding planning with Ivy.
Yeah, it must be a genetic thing, because I just think that all of us do that. But
I don't know. You seem like you got your stuff together.
yeah, on the outside.
Me, you're like,
Although,
I'm
look
in
at this
turmoil on the inside, actually. I have major daddy problems.
Look at this place. I mean, look at how well this came together in 1 week. And if it wasn't for Dustin Pointer and his, like, extreme makeover home edition skills, apparently, like, he could be in a different industry, because he remodeled this and it worked out really well.
Let's be real, though. It is, like, really extreme makeover. You used to watch that.
I mean, if it was up to me alone, we might still have the purple carpet, Ty.
Oh, no.
Purple
I was like,
carpet.
there was purple carpet in this studio.
Do you remember the orange carpet in Mom's house?
Oh, my God.
Broncos.
Yeah, that carpet is from, like, it could very well still be in that house from, like, the 70s.
That house was haunted.
Was it shaggy carpet?
It was
No.
not shaggy. It
No.
was, I don't even know carpet terminologies, but it was orange and brown. Let's just say the brown was
I'm going to
not
repeat
originally
myself.
there.
That house was haunted. Wasn't it?
You know what? Every single person who stayed in that house claimed they saw a ghost.
You remember
I
when
never
you
did.
went up and, like, looked in my attic and there was, like, a bed up there?
Yeah.
That was freaky.
I need to hear these ghost stories now.
Dude,
I don't have any. I never saw it.
There was this, in our basement, there was, like, this room, and it had a huge metal door, and it locked from the outside, and there was no handle on the inside. It was freaky.
This house was really old.
Yeah.
Really old. Big, like a humongous old house.
Mm-hmm. And
But I never saw the ghost.
Chance used to do this thing where my room was upstairs with Mom because I was the baby of the family and clearly the favorite, and for a little bit, and then I wasn't for a while. But Chance's room was downstairs, and I was really scared of the dark, and he would hide down there, and every time I go to my room, he would scare me, and so then I just started sleeping on the couch because I couldn't deal with it. Because you would scare me so bad all the time.
Here's the thing. Everybody said, and this is like family
Do you
members
remember?
who would visit.
No. Do you remember when you and Daniel jumped out my window onto the trampoline and you broke it?
I didn't do that.
It was just Daniel.
Nobody knows who Daniel is. But yeah, it was just him. You shouldn't have been throwing parties. Moral of the story.
I didn't throw a party. I came home from a volleyball tournament and there was leaves in my bed.
Who threw that party?
You or Paige.
Might have been me.
Solid.
I mean, we lived it up back in those days.
Yeah. Whose
we were
party?
terrible kids.
Oh, I
Jesus.
feel bad for Mom.
I wish I could say more, but I don't want to throw Mom under the bus too.
Feel bad for her. But
That was
yeah.
tough.
But she was just kind of like, me. Then she would
Which I get.
periodically get mad. Periodically.
How could you not? I mean,
Yeah, I would have been mad.
you censored yourself enough, but we were monsters.
We were literally the worst kids ever.
The worst kids. Like MTV special bad.
No respect.
Zero respect for any type of authority, whether that be in the public
Yeah.
school system or
Yeah.
anywhere else.
It was bad. I don't like who I was when I was a kid. Self-reflection is a...
Bitch.
Yep.
It's hard to look at that now. And just wait till you have a child
No.
and you'd be like, for the love of
Dude,
Christ.
I'm scared, okay? Because,
Of
like...
that karma?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm scared of what it'll be.
Well, you know what's so funny about rodeo people and rodeo kids is a lot of them grow up in really rural communities. A lot of them are like homeschooled and they like go to these small schools where there's like 30, 40 kids in your class. We went to a giant high school,
Fabby.
huge high school.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in there with like 600-700 kids in each graduating class. I mean,
There was 1,000 in my freshman class.
humongous school. Most rodeo kids don't grow up in that
They're like,
situation.
I graduated with like 28 people. I'm like, I passed like 28 people in like one section of a hallway.
And not a lot of people even knew that we were like Western lifestyle
No.
people. No one knew that about us.
No. And also, people didn't like me at school. I had no friends. I was like outcast deluxe.
That was just all of us.
And now I'm like, I don't like you. You know what I mean?
I don't talk to anybody.
I don't either. But
Few people.
but they follow me on Twitter and stuff.
Speaking of, where can everybody find you on social media?
What are my names? Just kidding. I think on Instagram it's like at Conrado Ivy, and then on Twitter it's like at Ivy Conrado, and I'm not giving you my Snapchat. Facebook is Ivy Conrado Saebens, professional barrel racer, but like my ats are at Ivy Conrado, but my name on my deal is Ivy Saebens. But like kind of like the age group that follows me the most is between like 12 and 17. And so I like to keep some stuff tied to the Conrado just so that they don't get confused. You know what I mean? But I am Ivy Saebens. So.
Very respectful of you.
Thank you.
It would be really tough, like if your wife didn't want to take your last name.
Oh, I wanted that last name. Yeah.
I think it's a good time to end the episode. I don't want to go any further into that. But yeah, so explain what your ats are again, because that was very loose. Never mind. Just
I got you.
You got
You
it?
got it?
Yeah,
okay, because I'm like not that into social media. I do my best, but
Instagram is Ivy Conrado, and then Twitter is Conrado Ivy.
I was right.
Was that what you said?
Yes.
I'm so many of these deep into this episode.
Also, just so I can do a little like self-promotion, I did an online clinic thing. It's on horseconfidence.com, and it's confidence with a K. And it's like a 5-part series clinic, and you can buy it for $47. And it's super cool because, again, I like to be universal with stuff. I think majority of people get horses from trainers or from someone else when they're already trained, and you try to get with them and win. I feel like that's what majority of people do. Not everybody rides 3-year-olds. You know what I mean? I feel like that's more like a specialty kind of deal. So my clinic specifically focuses on getting with your horse and getting them to have the feel that you want. So if you would like that, it's at horseconfidence.com with a K, not a C.
Wait, so you spell horse with a K?
Yeah.
Horse?
Wait. You think Whoa, no. Confidence, Chance. Confidence.
Ivy. This has been The Gauge, hosted by me, Chance Conrado, produced and edited by our guy Ty Yeager. Shout out to the executive producers Dustin Pointer and Cody Denton. Marketing and content produced by Casey Burke. Our theme song is by Shay Ashshire and the Night Howlers. Make sure to rate and review this podcast, as well as follow The Gauge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And make sure to subscribe to The Gauge wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you guys next time.